Terminal Papa, Roger, Squawk 1200, radio services. Terminated, frequency change to White Unicom 135.0 approved. Good day.
Good night, Roger. You can proceed to the runway.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Forward Aviation. In today's special video, we will be explaining to you the history of the Boeing 747 throughout all of its years of innovation and service, and its position in world history. So without further ado, let's take to the sky. In 1963, the United States Air Force conducted a study of many projects, each focusing on producing a massive strategic transport airplane. Even though the C-141 Starlifter was just being introduced, the United States Air Force believed they required a much larger aircraft, one especially with the ability to carry oversized cargo which at the time couldn't be transported. These studies yielded the original requirements for the new aircraft. The aircraft would need a load capacity of 180,000 pounds, a cruising speed of Mach 0.75, and an overall range of 5,000 nautical miles without being refueled while having a payload of 115,000 pounds. The cargo bay had to be 17 feet wide, 13.5 feet tall, and 100 feet long, or 5.18 meters wide, 4.11 meters tall, and 30 meters long. Additionally, the aircraft design will require access to the cargo bay through doors at the front and rear of the aircraft. A plethora of aircraft manufacturers came forth with their designs. These companies included Boeing, Douglas General Dynamics, Lockheed, and Martin Marietta. DGD would eventually merge with McDonnell to form McDonnell Douglas. Lockheed and Martin Marietta would also merge to form Lockheed Martin. A large number of engine manufacturers also submitted their ideas. These companies included General Electric, or GE, Curtiss-Wright, and Pratt Whitney. After multiple decisions made by the United States Air Force, they decided to allow for further experimentation by Boeing, Douglas, Lockheed Martin, General Electric, and Pratt Whitney. During the new process of experiments, the United States Air Force brought forth another requirement. The new design had to be able to load directly from the front. Both Douglas and Lockheed built small pods for the cockpit above the nose with ladder access from the cargo bay, but Boeing had a different idea. What is now the iconic hump on the Boeing 747 was Boeing's idea to allow for space for the cockpit while also having extra room. Boeing's design allowed for the nose to open completely for front loading into the cargo bay, but Lockheed's plan would also serve a purpose. In 1965, the aircraft design from Lockheed and the engine design from General Electric became the C-5 Super Galaxy, a large military cargo aircraft that can load both from the nose and a rear hydraulic door. Although Boeing's plan was not chosen for the design, the hump would be used in the future design of the 747 airliner. The design of the airliner model of the 747 was formulated in the 1960s, an era when air travel was becoming largely popular. As airline passengers counts grew exponentially, airplanes like the Boeing 707 and DC-8 had reshaped long-distance air travel. Then Juan Trippe, the president of Pan Am Airlines, one of Boeing's largest customers, requested Boeing to design and manufacture a plane twice the size of the Boeing 707. This on its own would be a great endeavor, but Boeing already had designs for a massive aircraft placed away. With a number of modifications to the design, the Boeing 747 was born. During the process of the modifications, Boeing recognized that in a small sum of time, supersonic air travel would be going into service, and that the 747 and other subsonic airliners might become obsolete. Because of this, they included in the modifications an easy way for cargo airlines to convert it from being a 747 commercial airliner to a 747 freighter. This ended up being a smart move for Boeing, but we'll elaborate more on that in the future. Large amounts of tests had to be conducted on the plane before it could be displayed to the public. A largely important test that involved 560 volunteers tested the emergency evacuation of the aircraft. It ended up taking 2.5 minutes instead of the required 90 seconds evacuation mandated by the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. Other tests on the aircraft also included that of taxiing. This was important because the plane had such a colossal size that it would not be easy to taxi, especially in the world's currently small runways which only had to accommodate planes such as the 707 and DC-8. To solve this problem of taxiing such large aircraft, pilots had to be specially trained. Boeing constructed a test module known as Waddle's Wagon. It consisted of a mock cockpit on the roof of a truck. Pilots in training could taxi all over the grounds using this test module to enhance their skills of taxiing. On September 30th, 1968, The beautiful Boeing 747-100 rolled out of the Boeing Everett factory for public viewing. As the 747 rolled out of the factory, thousands of Americans were there to glare at such a spectacular aircraft, which would later be known as the Queen of the Skies. It would be an airliner that was to be an emblem of American pride and innovation. On a cool day in Washington, February 9, 1969, the 747 was ready for its first flight. Even more people attended the first flight ceremony than the public viewing. The 747 was christened on the ramp of the Everett factory. Hundreds of people participated by getting champagne bottles on the reinforced aluminum fuselage. With test pilots Jack Waddell and Brian Weigel in the pilot seats, and Jess Wallach commanding the flight engineer station, the 747 taxied to the runway and took off with splendor. The 747-100 used in the first test flight is still on display today at the Boeing Museum. The aircraft handled well to stall simulations and was found to be largely unsusceptible to Dutch rolling, which was previously a major hazard with the early swept wingjets. Pan Am's first 747 at Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C. Instead of the traditional champagne smashing used previously at the first flight at Everett, red, white, and blue water was sprayed on the plane. The 747 entered service for Pan Am on January 22, 1970, on the New York to London route. Following its entry into service by Pan Am, other U.S. carriers including American, Continental, Delta, and United began purchasing the 747. The British Overseas Airways Corporation, or BOC, now British Airways, also purchased and flew the 747. After that, airlines around the world began purchasing the 747 left and right to support the growing airline transportation market. As more and more passengers wanted to fly, more and more 747s were produced. The 747 at the time featured a spiral staircase connecting the two decks and 8-foot ceilings. The upper deck was located in the hump and was usually reserved for first-class passengers as a lounge. As science advanced, so did the 747. Over the years, it has appeared in many forms with different specifications. The original aircraft was never given an official specification title. Instead, it is known as the original 747, although it is largely similar to the 747-100. The 747 SP was a design specification of the 747 that was recognizable, was shorter in length to be used for longer international flights. In 1983, the fuselage of the 747 was stretched, and the newest model, the 747-300, was now available for purchase. In 1989, to improve quality of flight for both the passengers and pilots, Boeing released the 747-400, with a two-crew glass cockpit and a longer upper deck. This variant of the 747 is the most common today. British Airways is presently the largest operator of the 747, with 28 747-400s still in operation as of May 5, 2020. The idea for an even longer 747 with a longer range was launched on November 14, 2005. The first 747-800 was delivered in October of 2011. Lufthansa presently is the largest 747-800 carrier, operating a total of 19 of these aircraft. Despite the efforts by Boeing to make the 747-800 more fuel efficient and compatible with the growing needs of the airline industry, it didn't catch on. As of September 2019, only 36 of the 747-800s have been sold, but the real question is why? Although the 747 remains a spectacle of American innovation and scientific achievement, its lack of fuel efficiency makes it less appealing to an airline over a two-engine wide-body aircraft with a similar range and much greater fuel efficiency. This contributes as to why many airlines around the globe have recently been retiring 747s from their fleet. Although the 747 has seen better days for commercial use, it is still the foundation for many governmental and military variants. Take for example VC-25, or more well known as Air Force One. The present Air Force One is a modified Boeing 747-200, operated by the United States Air Force as the carrier of the Commander-in-Chief. The Department of Defense does have a contract to purchase two 747-800s from Boeing. Originally built for the Russian airline Transaero, but after their bankruptcy, the Pentagon saw the opportunity to buy these airliners for cheaper than they would to be built specially for the Air Force. These new 747s are projected to be the carrier of the president succeeding the 2021 presidential inauguration. The 747 also had other variants, including the Space Shuttle carrier and NASA's Sophia 747 aircraft. Although the 747 future as a commercial jet remains in question, its use as a military jet and cargo plane still appears to be a great prospect for the future. From its planning phase to bringing the world closer together through flight, the 747 has achieved the impossible, and despite its decrease in usage, the 747 will always remain an emblem of American pride in world history. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. We hope you enjoyed our content. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell to stay updated with all the aviation content Forward Aviation has to offer. Tune in next week Tuesday for the welcoming of a new narrator to the channel, and you can also expect a flash update in the coming days as well. We thank you for flying with us today, and we hope you join us again soon on Forward Aviation.